On the edge of Sydney Harbour, where blue water meets endless sky, stands a building that looks more like a sculpture than a structure. Its white sails rise above the ocean like frozen waves, glowing under sunlight and shining under the stars. Today, it is one of the most famous landmarks on Earth. But few people know that this building was once called impossible, wasteful, and even a national embarrassment. This is not just the story of architecture. This is the story of human ambition, conflict, sacrifice, and redemption. This is the story of the Sydney Opera House. Before we begin, if you love deep documentaries, hidden history, and legendary places, subscribe to Umar Chronicles. On this channel, we do not repeat simple facts. We uncover the real stories behind greatness. Join us, and let's explore history together. Australia's symbol, located at Bennelong Point in the heart of Sydney Harbour, the Sydney Opera House is more than a performance venue. It is the cultural identity of Australia. Every year, more than 10 million people visit this place. Thousands of concerts, operas, plays, and festivals are held inside its walls. Millions more see it in photographs, films, and documentaries. In 2007, it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, placing it among the greatest monuments ever created by humanity. Yet, when it was first being built, many Australians believed it was a disaster. Australia's big dream, 1950s. To understand how this happened, we must go back to the early 1950s. After World War II, Australia was changing rapidly. Cities were expanding, immigration was increasing, and confidence was rising. The country wanted to be recognized as modern, cultured, and important on the world stage. However, Sydney had a major problem. It had no proper opera house or concert hall. Performances were held in cinemas and temporary buildings that were never designed for music or theater. Artists and musicians demanded something better. In 1954, the government announced an ambitious plan. They would build a world-class opera house that could compete with the best in Europe and America. An international design competition was launched. Architects from more than 30 countries were invited to participate. In total, 234 designs were submitted. Most of them were safe and traditional, with rectangular halls and ordinary roofs. Then, one design stood out: the genius architect, Jørn Utzon. It came from a young and relatively unknown architect from Denmark, Jørn Utzon. His design had no straight lines. Instead, it showed massive curved shells rising like sails above the water. It looked futuristic, artistic, and completely different from anything built before. Many judges were confused and even uncomfortable. Some believed it could never be constructed. Others thought it was too risky. But one judge recognized its brilliance and insisted that it represented the future of architecture. In 1957, Utzon was declared the winner. Utzon was only in his late 30s and had never managed a project of this size. He worked from a small studio and believed that buildings should feel alive, connected to nature and human emotion. His inspiration came from seashells, clouds, temples, and sailing ships in Sydney Harbour. For him, architecture was not just about walls and roofs, it was about creating experiences. Construction begins without a plan. Construction began in 1959. However, almost immediately, serious problems appeared. The government was impatient and wanted visible progress, so they ordered builders to start working on the foundations even though the final roof design was not complete. This decision would later become one of the biggest mistakes in the project's history. Engineers soon realized that Utzon's shells were extremely difficult to calculate and construct. At that time, computers were primitive. Most calculations were done by hand. Many early designs failed. Some collapsed in simulations. Others were too expensive to build. Years passed with little progress. Millions of dollars were spent without clear results. Critics began calling the project a financial disaster. Finally, after years of struggle, engineers made a breakthrough. They discovered that all the shells could be created from sections of a single sphere. This solution allowed the roof to be built using repeated patterns, making construction possible. Although this saved the project, it came very late and added even more cost. Politics versus perfection. As expenses increased, political pressure grew. The original budget had been only $7 million. Now it had crossed $100 million. A new government came into power and demanded control. They wanted cheaper materials, faster work, and fewer artistic risks. Utzon refused. He believed that compromising would destroy the building's soul. Tensions turned into open conflict. Payments to Utzon were delayed. His authority was reduced. His designs were questioned. He felt insulted and unsupported. After years of stress and humiliation, in 1966, Utzon resigned. He left Australia and returned to Denmark. He never saw his masterpiece completed. The man who imagined the opera house was removed from his own creation. A different opera house. After Utzon's departure, local architects took over. They modified many parts of the interior. Some changes were necessary for practical reasons, but others damaged the original vision. The main concert hall became too wide, affecting sound quality. The opera theater became smaller than planned. For decades, musicians complained about acoustics. The building looked perfect from outside, but inside it was flawed. Grand opening, 1973. Despite these problems, construction continued. Finally, in 1973, after 14 years of work, the Sydney Opera House was completed. On October 20th, Queen Elizabeth II officially opened it. Fireworks filled the sky. Media from around the world celebrated. Australia finally had its symbol. But one important person was missing. Jørn Utzon was not invited. His name was barely mentioned. The creator of the dream was ignored. Engineering marvel. From an engineering perspective, the Opera House is a masterpiece. Its roof is covered with more than 1 million ceramic tiles that reflect sunlight differently in rain and sunshine. The building rests on hundreds of deep concrete pillars. Inside, there are more than 1,000 rooms and dozens of corridors. In the 1960s, engineers used some of the earliest computers to calculate structural loads. The project pushed construction technology decades forward. Utzon's late recognition. For many years, Utzon lived quietly in Denmark, rarely speaking about the opera house. But in the 1990s, Australia finally admitted its mistake. The government apologized and invited him to return as a design consultant. Although he never came back physically, he helped redesign parts of the interior from afar. A special room was named in his honor. In 2003, he received the Pritzker Prize, the highest award in architecture. Recognition came late, but it came. Global cultural icon. Today, the Sydney Opera House is one of the busiest cultural centers in the world. It hosts classical concerts, rock shows, theater performances, ballet, and international festivals. Some of the world's greatest artists have performed on its stages. It generates billions in tourism revenue and supports thousands of jobs. It is not a museum. It is a living, breathing monument. Amazing facts. There are many fascinating facts about this building. It consumes enough electricity to power a small town. Professional climbers clean its windows and roof. More than 600 performances are held every year. Cleaning the tiles takes months. The entire structure weighs over 160,000 tons. Every detail reflects human effort and persistence. The price of greatness. The Sydney Opera House teaches us a powerful lesson. Great achievements are never easy. Vision is often attacked. Genius is often misunderstood. Utzon lost his position, his peace, and his pride. But history proved him right. His dream outlived politics, criticism, and failure. Today, millions of people admire this building without knowing its painful story. But behind every curve and every tile lies a struggle for excellence. It stands as proof that courage and imagination can change the world. If this documentary inspired you, subscribe to Umar Chronicles. Like this video, share it, and tell us in the comments which monument we should explore next. Because history lives when we remember it. This is Umar Chronicles. See you in the next journey.